Well, hello.
Hello.
Chances are, if you clicked on this video, you're headed to a rent fair, or you want to go to a rent fair, but you have no idea what you want to wear, or you have very little idea. I've covered this subject many times on this channel. However, the advice that I gave is only really applicable if you are girly or feminine presenting, and I didn't really cover the more masculine side of dressing for rent fairs. So in this video, I'm going to be going over how to put together an outfit for rent fair if you are more masculine and you don't want to look like a fairy or a bar wench. So the first thing that you want to think about before starting is, what is your inspiration for your outfit? There are a lot of different themes you can go with besides just generic medieval. For example, do you want to look like a Viking, a pirate, a knight, a ranger, sneaky little court jester? Figure out what vibe you want to bring to the function, then we go from there. So once you figure out what your inspiration is, and it could also be a movie character, like from Princess Bride, Lord of the Rings. Of course, all medieval fantasy movies just fly right out of my head when I try to think of specific examples. I would highly recommend gathering some images to give you some inspiration as you're shopping, so that you're not just having your ideas loosely rolling around your head, but you have something visual to go based on. I recommend utilizing Pinterest, even if you've never used it. I know a lot of guys think that Pinterest is for girls, but I know quite a few guys who use Pinterest as well. You don't have to make it public. If you're worried about the bros finding your secret Pinterest boards, but it's a great way to gather inspiration and organize them so you can have them close at hand, and also so you don't have to just save them randomly to your camera roll. So take your inspiration words or characters and type that into the search and find some pictures that you vibe with and save them. And also Pinterest has some embedded shopping tools as well, so it might actually point you to some items that you might be interested in as well. Where to get items? Now, the very first place that most people go is Amazon, and Amazon is kind of a one-stop shop. You get things very quick, stuff is pretty cheap. Things aren't the best quality, but if you're just going to a rent fair like one time and you're not planning on investing in quality pieces, it is a pretty good place to just get everything all in one go and you're done. But if you're wanting to actually find things that will last and are quality and are also not made in sweatshops, the second most obvious place to shop is Etsy, and that is going to be from individual artists and sellers. There are some drop-shipped items on Etsy, so definitely be careful because some of the stuff is price gouged and is a lot cheaper on Amazon. Be careful. Make sure it is handmade. I typically like to shop within the United States just because it gets to me quicker, and I usually don't think to shop until like a couple weeks before the fair. But there's amazing sellers all over the world that you can source your items from. Some of my favorite shops on Etsy are Costurero Real and Uchronic Time. They're both owned by the same shop. They're just their sister shops. One of them is more fantasy, and then the other one is more steampunk gothic. And I believe Uchronic Time just recently, like within the last year, came out with a men's bodice. It's like a vest, but it laces up like a corset. It looks really cool. I got my husband one of them, and he hasn't worn it yet. He dresses pretty basic for fair. It's hard to get him to dress more elaborately besides when he dresses in his armor, but you know, I will try. There's a lot of really cool shops like that. I will link them in the description as well, and I'll make like a shopping board on either Like to Know It or Magic Links so that you guys can like shop my shopping picks. Now, when it comes to putting together outfits, if you're not going for a specific character or a specific vibe, there is a basic formula that you can go by, and that is the base shirt, which is usually like a flowing tunic, usually white or cream, but can be any color. And fellas, take it from me, invest in a good white flowing shirt. Thank me later. The girlies get it. Men don't understand, but just take it from me.
Trust me.
Next in the formula is the basic pant. So usually a neutral color. Again, doesn't have to be neutral, but usually it's made from like cotton or twill. And then you can go with a knee-high boot or an ankle boot. And then from that basic look, you can build off of that. So you can add belts, pouches, which is great when the pants don't have pockets, a vest or armor, bracers. You can also choose a more elaborate shirt if you're going for more of a Viking vibe, and you can add some like bohemian manly jewelry with that. I say manly, but like I'd wear it too. I just mean that I just add that in because sometimes when you say jewelry, men go, oh, it's girly. but like the leather cord with like a tooth or a bone or a crystal or something like that. If you're on a budget, the next best place to find items is actually the thrift store. And a lot of people say it's hard to thrift renfaire garb at the thrift store, but I think it just takes persistence and knowing when to go, but also knowing where to look. So even if you are a dude or if you don't dress girly and you typically like to shop in the men's section, I definitely recommend looking in the women's blouses for the flowing shirts, because a lot of brands will make these types of, well, I'm pointing at my hoodie as if I'm talking about these shirts, but it's kind of has the vibe. A lot of women's brands will make shirts that very much look like the Mr. Darcy blouse. And also a lot of times, even if it was made for a man, like if it's an actual renfaire garb piece, because it looks blousy, it'll get incorrectly sorted into the women's apparel. I've seen that so many times. I've recognized shirts and been like, hey, this is actually a men's renfaire garb shirt and it's in the women's blouses. So definitely check there. There was another tip that someone else gave, that you should check the scrubs section, because sometimes those natural looking pants, like just basic pants, will get put in the scrub section, or sometimes the more neutral, low-key looking scrub bottoms actually do kind of look like renfaire bottoms that you can like tuck into your boots, or just the uniform section in general. You can sometimes find pants like that. The thrift store is also a great place to find belts. That's where mostly all of our leather belts are from, whether we use them for like actual belts or we use them for our straps for our DIY armor or for our tankard straps, things like that. Also, you can get like little purses and cut them up and use them and turn them into pouches as well if you don't want to buy a pouch. But definitely focus on finding leather, because it's a lot more forgiving when you do cut it. It doesn't peel like pleather does. Also keep in mind that fabrics can be dyed. So if they're too bright, you can give them a tea bath. You can use RIT dye to make them darker. I've even seen people use watered down acrylic paint to dye fabric as well. As long as you heat set it after, it will stay. Also, cloaks are pretty easy to make from blankets. So if you don't want to buy one, you don't really need to be that skilled at sewing because it's a pretty basic shape. If you want to add a hood, there might be a little bit more work involved, but typically there are some pretty easy to follow patterns online that are free to download. If I find any, I'll link them in the description. And you probably don't even need a sewing machine. You can hand stitch it, which will make it look more authentic anyways. So I personally like thrifting at the bins for this. There's usually a lot of linens and blankets at the bins, as well as curtains. Every time I go, I load up my cart with interesting looking fabric items that I intend on Frankensteining into my creations. Sometimes I'll grab something because it has really unique trims and textures. So keep that in mind if you're looking for super cheap materials for cosplay. The bins. And a lot of that stuff would end up in the landfill otherwise, so don't feel bad about cutting it up. It's also a great place to find broken belts that you can use for your projects as well, for like the straps that I was talking about. And you can also use the belt buckles if you just find like a buckle at the bottom of the bin. I've done that a couple times. Doing it that way is so much cheaper than buying it at the regular thrift store if you're looking to like cut up some belts, because everything is by the pound. Lately, my local Goodwill has been charging $5.99 for belts, but last time I got like a crap ton of belts at the bins, it was like $1.50 or something. I don't know. It was pretty cheap. For leather, you can't beat it. And two, going back to pants, check the women's section for pants too. Even if you're over the average height of a woman of 5'4", check the pants, because if they're too short, you can still like wear boots long enough to cover, or you can like turn them into men's cutoff capris. I don't know. I'm always finding women's boho hippie pants in the women's pants section, the ones that are like made of natural fibers like cotton, linen. So those work great if you're trying to dress more masculine or more androgynous for renfaire, because they breathe and they look the part. So with all of these pieces, you can usually get away with mixing and matching them pretty easily. I'll show you guys some combinations from the different examples that I've shown you. If you're looking to just keep it simple, I would just stick to the basic formula. But when it comes to like specific looks that you're going for, I would also try going to a shop that caters to Ren Fair garb, like Medieval Collectibles. There are quite a few others, so I'll link a bunch of shops down in the description. Places that sell like armor and period accurate garb. I recommend not worrying too much about being historically accurate. No one really does anymore. Listen, we all just want to have fun and, you know, play dress up. So just have fun with it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And at the end of the day, if you feel like it's too much work, just wear the basic shirt and the pants and boots and put on a belt and call it a day. You can't really bring weapons to a Ren Fair for obvious reasons because they don't want people to hurt people, but you can also get like kids' toys and paint them to look real. You can buy swords and daggers at the Ren Fair, but you just can't bring them in. So for like my pirate looks, this is a kid's toy that I painted. I like to bring this. We also like to take like foam or kids' swords and paint, or like the Halloween swords, paint them to look a little bit more realistic. But yeah, it's not that hard. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments and I can help you guys out. Be sure to check out my Amazon storefront because I have a lot of basics and essentials in there as well. And then if you're watching this and I missed anything and you have a recommendation, also put that down in the comments. So check the comments, guys, as well if you need any more tips, because we're a pretty sharing, pretty open community and we don't gatekeep. We like to help each other out so we all have fun. So don't be shy. Let's discuss, let's talk about it. For my next video, well, not really my next video that I'm gonna upload, but for my next video that's like along this subject line, I do wanna cover dressing fantasy core, but casual every day, but for more masculine, because I did do a video, but it was, again, more covering the more feminine side of things because that is my perspective. But I do have some ideas that I wanna share with you guys about that. If you love fantasy and whimsical things and you wanna dress more fairy core, hobbit core, goblin core, but you're not girly, you don't feel comfortable dressing in frilly girly things, or you're a boy / man, that's the video that I'm gonna be working on very, very soon because I've had many people request that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I am actually getting ready for a fair myself. So if I don't see you guys by the time I get back, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, a great weekend. Hope you're staying cool this summer. I don't know why I'm still talking. Okay, bye. Love you.